Okay, so one of the things I wanted to cover in the version 2 build of the spray booth is safety. I didn't talk a whole lot about that in the version 1 build, but I think that's probably the most important consideration when you're talking about spraying automotive paints. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this topic, but I will say that I have done quite a bit of research, so the information that I provide should be pretty helpful. So the first thing, of course, is respiratory protection. This mask here is a 3M half mask, which is a pretty popular mask that you can buy at like a Lowe's or a Home Depot. And it covers your nose and your mouth. And you can put filters and cartridges on the side here, on either side. Now some painters do not like these masks because they don't feel like they provide a good enough seal because of the irregular contours of the nose and the mouth. So they won't use these, but instead what they will use is one of these masks here. This is a full face mask. This happens to be a 3M mask. It's the 3M 6800. So there's three different sizes. The 6700 is the small, 68 is medium, and 6900 is the large. And from what I've read, most people will fall in the 6800 range. That covers probably about 75% of the population out there. And if you're like 6'5" and above, of course, you have larger features, so you're probably going to want a large one. So it covers your eyes and your nose and your mouth. And around the back here, you can see that it's got a full face seal versus the nose and mouth seal, so you can seal this up against the flatter surfaces of your face and get a nice good seal. And then you pull these straps here to pull it nice and tight. So this mask is available, you can find them on Amazon from anywhere from like $90 to about $125, somewhere in that range. Or you can find them on eBay also. There's a lot of knockoffs on eBay from what I've seen. So I would definitely make sure you scrutinize whatever you see on eBay really heavily. As you can see there, so far I've talked a lot about 3M products because I think personally that if you're going to protect yourself, you need to make sure you buy high quality products and not buy some knockoffs or some sort of Harbor Freight brand or something like that that you're really not sure about. So the next thing, of course, if you're going to buy one of these masks or even the half mask, is you want to make sure you have the right cartridges. This cartridge here is the 3M 6001, which is a really popular cartridge that you can buy easily in the stores. But this cartridge is not a good cartridge for protecting you against the chemicals that are in the automotive paints, especially the isocyanates that are in the paints. So instead, 3M makes this cartridge here, which is the 60921. And I got these at Home Depot. And they come in this package like that. All the cartridges are sealed like this because they are charcoal cartridges, and if you open the package, you're basically activating the charcoal prematurely if you're not going to put them right away on the mask and use the mask for spraying or protection from spraying paint. So again, that's the 60921. I think there is one other cartridge by 3M that also protects you against the chemicals in the automotive paints. I don't remember the part number for that one. This one, like I said, I could easily find at Home Depot though. And if you notice here, the cover here is pink. But that doesn't mean that every cartridge you see in the store that has a pink cover is going to be able to protect you from the chemicals in the automotive paints. You definitely, again, you want to make sure you get the right part number, 60921. The next thing is I'm going to be wearing one of these coveralls here so I can keep the chemicals off my arms and legs or any other extremities. So that's what this is for. This is a 3M paint spray coverall. And that's a one-time use kind of thing, so if you use that, definitely throw it away when you're finished. The one other thing I forgot to mention with regard to the cartridges over there is that as soon as I'm finished spraying the clear coat, which is obviously the last step of painting, I'm going to take the cartridges off the mask and throw them away. I'm not going to use them for the next time I paint anything. Last thing is gloves. This is a latex glove, and latex is not a material you want to use when you're spraying automotive paints. You don't want to use latex gloves. Instead, nitrile or a more heavy-duty material is what you want to use for spraying automotive paints. Because with the latex gloves, the chemicals can still seep through the gloves and into your skin. The one thing I didn't cover in this video is fresh air systems for respiratory protection, because it's impractical for most DIYers to purchase those, but that is another option. So I'm going to talk about the work environment here, and as you see, I've got a fire extinguisher all set up on the wall just in case I need it, and I've checked to make sure that it's fully charged. The furnace and the water heater pilot lights will be turned off about a half hour before I start painting, so I can eliminate any potential explosion issues with those two appliances. I've already talked about the lighting that I've installed above the booth and the lighting that I'll have on the stand in those two windows over there. So in other words, I won't have any electrical appliances of any kind inside the booth. Lastly, box fans are generally not considered much of a hazard because they use an induction motor. But the one part of the box fan that is a potential hazard is a switch. So of course I'll turn the box fans on before I start painting, and then I'll leave them on until a half hour after I stop painting. Okay, so I'm working on finishing touches for this booth. And what I'm showing you here is the Pneumatic Plus SAW 3000 water separator and air regulator. So I'm going to be regulating the air pressure on the wall versus regulating it at the gun. I'm going to have the regulator on the gun, but I'm going to have it fully open, and that's so that the paint atomizes better. And if I need to make some fine adjustments, of course I can do that right at the gun. So what I'm showing you on the left hand side is the line that's coming in from the air compressor, and then on the right hand side the blue line is going out to the gun. And I've got about 25 feet of line coming into this regulator and separator, and what that'll allow me to do is try to filter out as much water as possible. If I had a shorter hose, then I could have some issues with water getting into that blue line on the right hand side. This is probably not an ideal setup because you really want to have a more sophisticated plumbing system, but this is what I'm going to go with in this case. Okay, so now we're inside the booth, and we're just going to take a look around at some of the finishing touches on the inside here. Now this is not really a finishing touch, but I've got a space heater in here because it's around 50 degrees right now. It's supposed to get up to somewhere around 60 today, but the 50 is a little bit too cold, and I want to start painting as early as I can. So I'm going to bring the temperature up to around 75 degrees inside the booth. And that also gives the bumper cover a little bit of a chance to warm up also. Okay, so I've got the air hose routed through the inlet that I made earlier. And before I start painting, I'm going to make sure that I wipe this air hose down so that I can prevent any debris from falling off that hose and onto the bumper cover. In the corner over there, I've got a stand for the gun mounted, and all I did there was took some zip ties, ran it through the little holes in the stand, wrapped those around that PVC you see there, and then the stand won't fall any lower than that elbow or that connector you see in the corner. So I've got 2 zip ties on there, and it's very sturdy. It does not move hardly at all. Then I've attached some cardboard up here to test the spray pattern of the gun. And then down here in the corner, I've just got some of the chemicals, like the solvents that I'll be using. I've got the primer, reducer, hardener, and then I've got some adhesion promoter for the bumper cover. On the floor, I've got some plastic down to protect the floor from the overspray, and that'll also hopefully attract some of the dust in here. One other thing I added was this thermometer with a humidity sensor. Got this at Walmart for $9. And to mount it, all I did was I took the plastic case that it came in, cut that off the package, and then use that more or less as a protective cover. and then I've duct taped it to this PVC here. Okay, so I just finished priming this bumper cover with a 2K primer, which of course is one of the more volatile primers you can use. And so far I've got almost no odor at all in this garage. I'm actually standing in the garage right now in shorts and a t-shirt, and I smell pretty much nothing. So I think the booth did its job, and I'm very happy with the way this all turned out. I did peek my head in the booth just to make sure that I wasn't hallucinating, and there is quite a bit of odor in there, so I still have the fans running to continue to exhaust all the fumes out of the booth. So the next thing, of course, is to sand down this bumper cover, and then I'll apply the base coat and the clear coat, and I'm hoping the booth will hold up with those two applications also. Okay, so there's a trunk lid that I just finished painting. That turned out pretty well. So I did make one change to the booth that kind of aided in making sure that this paint job turned out very well. And so I'm going to talk about that next. So one of the changes that I made was to add this box fan on the intake side to push some of the air across the booth and create sort of a semi-downdraft effect. And basically what that means is when I'm spraying in there, any debris or overspray that's in the air is getting pushed across the booth, and then it's being exhausted down low by those exhaust fans and filters. What I was experiencing when I first started to use this booth was I was getting a lot of trash in the paint, which was very annoying. So I decided to go ahead and put this in, and that worked out great. I do have this box fan turned on speed 1 out of 3, so I don't create a lot of turbulence in the booth. So that's one other consideration, is you don't want to have the fan turned up too high. I did end up putting some plastic up over there, over the doorway, to keep the fumes out of the house. There was a little bit of an accumulation of fumes in the garage, and that was probably up to about an hour after I finished painting. And then now, of course, I'm in here and it's fairly clear. I did have the garage door open, and that was to have some more or less sort of a makeup air in the garage, to have some air pushing through the booth. And then, of course, on the other side I have the exhaust ducts that go outside to the backyard. And my neighbors have not complained whatsoever. They can't even smell anything, to be honest with you. There's really no smell. My neighbor is probably 10-15 feet away from me, and I know he can't smell anything, because I couldn't smell anything when I went outside. So that was, I would call that a success item there. A couple issues, I would say. The overspray accumulates on the walls and on the floor pretty quickly, so I've had to change the plastic out a couple times, on the floor especially, and that's more or less after I finish with the clear coat application. But you know, you buy some cheap drop cloths, you know, $2 or $3, and that'll take care of that. The other thing is the zipper door. After spraying the clear coat, the zipper door was a little difficult to unzip and close up, but that's kind of to be expected with clear coat. It just is really nasty and pervasive, and that's just what happens. So that's pretty much it on this project. Thanks for watching these videos, and I appreciate any feedback or any comments anyone has. So hopefully this information that I provided was helpful. And any experts out there that have any comments, I welcome those also.